The smell of recycled air and alien sweat filled the lower levels of Nexus Station. Li Wujin walked slowly through the crowded market halls. His worn boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. 2 credits sat heavy in his pocket. It was all he had left in the entire galaxy. Around him, hundreds of beings bought and sold everything from rare metals to illegal weapons. The market never slept. Lights flickered above while voices called out prices in dozens of languages. Most humans avoided this place. It was dirty and dangerous, but Wu Jin had nowhere else to go. He stopped at a food stall. The alien vendor had 4 arms and green skin. A bowl of protein soup cost 3 credits. Wu Jin touched his pocket and walked away. He had not eaten in 2 days. His stomach hurt, but he kept moving. 3 months ago, Wu Jin had been a promising engineer on Earth Colony 7. He had designed new power systems that could run entire cities. Then the hegemony came. They said human technology was primitive and dangerous. They shut down his projects and took his job. Like many humans, he was forced to leave. Now he lived in the forgotten spaces of Nexus Station. He fixed broken equipment for a few credits here and there. Most aliens thought humans were stupid. They paid him very little for his work. Some days, he earned enough for food. Most days he did not. The slave market sat at the very bottom of the station. Few beings went there unless they had to. Wu Jin had never been inside before. Today felt different. He could not explain why, but something pulled him toward the entrance. The smell got worse as he walked down the metal stairs. Cages lined the walls. Inside them sat beings from across the galaxy. Most looked sick or injured. Their eyes held no hope. Guards with energy weapons watched everything. Wu Jin moved between the cages. He saw warriors from the Keth system. Their blue skin had lost its shine. A family of miners from the outer rim huddled together. Children cried softly while their parents tried to comfort them. At the very back of the market sat a small cage. Inside was something Wu Jin had never seen before. It looked like the dragons from old Earth stories, but smaller. Its scales were deep purple with hints of silver. One wing hung at a strange angle. Blood had dried on its side. The creature lifted its head as Wu Jin approached. Its eyes were large and golden. Intelligence showed in those eyes. Not animal intelligence, but something much deeper. It reminded Wu Jin of the way his grandfather used to look at broken machines, like it could see how everything was supposed to work. A fat trader with tentacles for arms noticed Wu Jin looking. The alien waddled over with a nasty smile. "You like the little beast, human?" the trader said. His voice was thick and wet. "It is a Veltar, very rare, very valuable." Wu Jin knelt by the cage. The dragon creature moved closer. Its golden eyes never left his face. Up close he could see how badly hurt it was. The broken wing was infected. Its breathing was too fast and shallow. "What happened to it?" Wu Jin asked. The trader laughed. "Stupid thing tried to protect its nest. The hegemony wanted the eggs for research. This one fought back. Now look at it." He kicked the cage. The creature inside did not react. "How much?" Wu Jin found himself asking. "For you, human? 50 credits. It will die soon anyway. Maybe you can eat it." Wu Jin's heart sank. 50 credits might as well have been 50,000. He started to walk away but stopped. The dragon was watching him. Those golden eyes seemed to be asking for help. Not begging exactly, just asking if there was any kindness left in the galaxy. "It is dying," Wu Jin said. "Look at it. No one will pay 50 credits for a dying animal." The trader looked annoyed. "Then make an offer, human. I want it gone. It smells bad and takes up space." Wu Jin thought about his empty stomach. He thought about the cold maintenance tunnel where he slept. He thought about the 2 credits in his pocket. They could buy him a small meal, maybe keep him alive one more day. 2 credits, he said. The trader's eyes widened. Then he laughed so hard his tentacles shook. 2 credits? For a Veltar? Even a dying one? Other traders gathered around. They all started laughing too. Some pointed at Wu Jin and made jokes in languages he did not know. He felt his face get hot, but he did not move. "Stupid human," one of them said. spend your last money on a dying beast." The fat trader was still laughing, but his eyes showed greed. 2 credits was better than nothing. The creature would be dead in days. No one else had shown any interest. "Fine," the trader said. 2 credits, but when it dies, do not come crying to me." Wu Jin pulled the credits from his pocket. His hands shook slightly as he handed them over. The trader opened the cage and grabbed the dragon by its neck. The creature cried out in pain. Its voice sounded almost musical despite the hurt. "Be gentle," Wu Jin said. "You paid for it, human. Now it is your problem." The trader shoved the injured dragon into Wu Jin's arms and walked away, still chuckling. The dragon was heavier than it looked, but not by much. Wu Jin could feel its ribs through its scales. It was starving just like him. Its golden eyes looked up at him with something that might have been gratitude. "What am I doing?" Wu Jin whispered to himself. Around him, other slaves and traders watched. Some shook their heads. A few made comments about foolish humans. Wu Jin ignored them all. He carefully adjusted his grip so he would not hurt the creature's broken wing. The dragon made a soft sound, almost like a purr, but sadder. It seemed to understand that someone had chosen to help it. Someone had spent everything they had just to take it away from this terrible place. Wu Jin walked slowly toward the exit. He had no food, no money, and now a dying alien creature to care for. Any reasonable person would call him insane. Maybe they were right. But as he felt the dragon's warm scales against his arm, something inside him felt lighter. Sometimes kindness was the only choice that made sense, even when it made no sense at all. Wu Jin carried the injured dragon through the dark maintenance tunnels beneath Nexus Station. His arms ached, but he did not stop. Water dripped from old pipes overhead. The air smelled of oil and rust. This was home now. His shelter was a small space behind the main power generators. The constant humming of machinery hid any sounds he made. Old blankets and spare parts filled the corners. It was not much, but it was safe and warm. He placed the dragon gently on his makeshift bed. The creature's breathing was still too fast. Its golden eyes followed his every movement. The broken wing hung at an ugly angle. Dark blood had dried along its ribs. "What do I call you?" Wu Jin asked softly. The dragon made a small chirping sound. Its head tilted slightly like it was thinking. Then something amazing happened. A voice spoke inside Wu Jin's mind. Not with words exactly, but with feelings and images. The name came to him clearly. Kethara. It meant something like hope in darkness in the dragon's language. Wu Jin did not know how he understood this, but he did. "Kethara," he said out loud. The dragon's eyes brightened. Over the next few days, Wu Jin learned to care for his new companion. He used his engineering tools to make a splint for the broken wing. Clean rags became bandages. He shared his small portions of food even though both of them were still hungry. Kethara began to heal slowly. The dragon could not talk in the human way, but their mental connection grew stronger. Wu Jin learned that Kethara was young, maybe the same as a human teenager. Her family had been taken by the hegemony months ago. She did not know if they were still alive. The dragon also had questions about humans. She had never met one before. In her mind, Wu Jin felt her curiosity about everything. Why did humans help strangers? Why did they build things that other species could not understand? Why did they never give up even when everything seemed hopeless? Wu Jin did not have good answers. He just knew it felt right to help her. After a week, something strange began to happen. Whenever Wu Jin worked on broken equipment, things started working better than they should. An old air recycler that usually broke down twice a day ran perfectly. A power coupling that needed constant adjustment fixed itself. At first, Wu Jin thought he was just getting better at repairs. Then he noticed Kethara watching him work. Her golden eyes would focus intensely on whatever machine he touched. Sometimes her scales would glow faintly with silver light. "Are you doing something?" he asked her one day. Images flooded his mind. He saw vast machines that stretched across entire planets. Beings that looked like Kethara worked alongside others to build incredible things. Ships that could cross the galaxy in days. Cities that floated among the stars. Technology that seemed like magic. Then the images changed. War came. The builders were destroyed. The dragons were enslaved and their knowledge was scattered. For generations, they had been forced to forget what they once knew. But Cathara had not forgotten everything. Deep in her genetic memory lay fragments of the old knowledge. When she watched Wu Jin work, something awakened. The combination of human creativity and dragon memory created something new. "Your people were engineers too," Wu Jin whispered in amazement. Cathara sent him feelings of sadness and loss. Her kind had once helped shape the galaxy. Now they were treated like animals. Most had forgotten their true nature. But being with Wu Jin made her remember. 2 weeks after the rescue, Park So-min found them. Wu Jin was replacing a burnt power relay when he heard footsteps in the tunnel. He quickly moved to block the view of Cathara. A figure in security uniform stepped into the light. "Hello, Wu Jin," So-min said. Her voice was tired but not unfriendly. So-min had been his friend at the engineering academy on Earth. They had studied together and dreamed of building better worlds. The hegemony's arrival had scattered their class across the galaxy. He had not seen her in over a year. "So-min," he said. Relief and worry mixed in his voice. "What are you doing here?" "I work station security now," she said. "I heard rumors about a human living in the maintenance areas, had to check it out myself." Her eyes moved past him to the small shelter. "Are you alone?" Wu Jin hesitated. So-min had always been honest and fair, but she wore a uniform now. She had duties and rules to follow. "Define alone," he said carefully. Cathara stepped out from behind him. Her wing was still splinted, but she moved with more confidence now. Her scales had regained some of their shine. She looked at So-min with curious but cautious eyes. So-min's hand moved toward her weapon, then stopped. She stared at the dragon for a long moment. "Is that a Veltar?" she asked in a whisper. "Her name is Cathara," Wu Jin said. "She was dying. I could not just leave her." "Wu Jin, do you know what you have done? Veltar are restricted beings. The hegemony classifies them as dangerous. If they find out you have one, they will kill us both," Wu Jin finished. "I know." So-min looked between them. She saw how Cathara stayed close to Wu Jin. She noticed the care in his eyes when he looked at the dragon. She also saw the improvements to the tunnel systems. Equipment that had been broken for months now worked perfectly. "How long has she been here?" So-min asked. 2 weeks. "And the repairs? The improvements to this whole sector?" Wu Jin exchanged a look with Cathara. "We work well together." So-min was quiet for several minutes. Finally, she removed her hand from her weapon. "I never found anything down here," she said, "but you need to be more careful. Other security officers might not be as understanding." She turned to leave, then paused. "Wu Jin, whatever you two are doing, keep doing it. The station systems have never run this well. People are starting to notice." After she left, Cathara sent Wu Jin feelings of gratitude, not just for saving her, but for showing her that some beings could still be trusted. In return, she shared more of her people's knowledge. Together, they began to understand what they might accomplish. A human engineer and a dragon with genetic memories of the galaxy's greatest builders. It was a combination that should not work. But it did. Commander Thek stepped off his warship with heavy boots that echoed through the docking bay. His gray uniform was covered in metals, and his eyes were cold as space itself. Behind him marched 20 soldiers in black armor. They carried weapons that could cut through steel. Station Manager Veldok rushed to greet them. The 3-armed alien was sweating despite the cool air. Hegemony visits were never good news for anyone. "Commander," Veldok said with a nervous bow, "we were not expecting your arrival." "Of course you were not," Thex replied. His voice was sharp like broken glass. "We are hunting something. A prototype was stolen from our research facility. We have tracked it to this station." "What kind of prototype?" "That is classified. Just know that it is extremely valuable and extremely dangerous. We will search every level until we find it." 2 levels below, Wu Jin felt a chill run down his spine. Cathara was pressed against his side. Her scales had gone pale with fear. Through their mental link, he sensed her terror. "They came for me," she whispered in his mind. "The soldiers. They took my family to study us, to learn our secrets." Wu Jin put his hand gently on her head. "They will not take you, I promise." But promises were easier to make than keep. The hegemony controlled most of the galaxy. They had ships, weapons, and endless resources. What did he have? Some engineering tools and a half-healed dragon. Over the next day, hegemony soldiers spread through the station like a plague. They questioned everyone and searched everywhere. Wu Jin watched from the shadows as they moved through the upper levels. So-Min's security teams tried to help, but they had no real power against the military. The soldiers were looking for something specific. Wu Jin heard them talking about energy readings and genetic markers. They had devices that could track biological signatures. It was only a matter of time before they found the maintenance tunnels. "We need to move," Wu Jin told Cathara that evening. "Find somewhere else to hide." "There is nowhere to run," she replied sadly. "They will search the entire station. Then they will search the next one and the next one after that." She was right. Running would only delay the inevitable. But Wu Jin was human. Humans did not give up just because something was impossible. He spent hours studying the station's systems. Nexus Station was old and complex. It had been built by 5 different species over 2 centuries. The maintenance tunnels connected everything, but few beings understood the full layout. An idea began to form. It was crazy and dangerous. It probably would not work, but it was better than sitting still and waiting to be caught. "Can you do something to the station's power grid?" he asked Cathara. "What do you mean?" "Make it unstable. Not enough to hurt anyone, but enough to keep the soldiers busy." Cathara's eyes glowed with silver light. "I can try. But it will take all my strength. Then we better make it count." The next morning, power fluctuations began throughout Nexus Station. Lights flickered in patterns that made no sense. Computer systems crashed and restarted randomly. Life support worked perfectly, but everything else went haywire. The hegemony soldiers were forced to focus on the technical problems. Their equipment malfunctioned constantly, their communication devices filled with static. Even their weapons had trouble holding a charge. Commander Thex was furious. "What is wrong with this station?" he shouted at Veldok. "We are investigating, Commander. Our engineers say it must be some kind of cascade failure in the main grid. Fix it immediately. We cannot complete our search with systems failing every few minutes." But every time the station's engineers thought they had found the problem, something else would break. A water recycler would flood a corridor. A gravity generator would create pockets of 0G in random rooms. Cargo bay doors would open and close by themselves. Wu Jin moved through the chaos like a ghost. He knew every tunnel and access way. While the soldiers stumbled around in the dark, he made his way to critical system nodes. With Cathara's help, he could make repairs look like accidents, and accidents look like repairs. On the 3rd day, something unexpected happened. Other maintenance workers began to help. They had seen Wu Jin's improvements to their systems over the past months. They knew he was good at his job, and they trusted him. A human named Kim Tae-ho started leaving tools in places where Wu Jin could find them. An alien engineer called Zix began reporting false problems to send soldiers to empty areas. Even some of the cleaning staff started creating distractions. Nobody talked about it openly, but word spread through the station's forgotten corners. A human was fighting back against the hegemony. Maybe he could not win, but at least he was trying. Commander Thex grew more suspicious each day. "These are not random failures," he told his lieutenant. "Someone is sabotaging our search. Who would dare? I do not know yet, but I will find them." Ordered his soldiers to start arresting maintenance workers. Anyone who worked on the station's systems was brought in for questioning. Most were released quickly, but a few disappeared into the hegemony's detention cells. Wu Jin watched from a ventilation grate as Kim Tae-ho was dragged away. The young human had left food for him just yesterday. Now he was paying the price for kindness. "This is my fault," Wu Jin said to Cathara. "I should turn myself in." No, she replied firmly. If you surrender, everything we have worked for dies with us. These people chose to help, honor their choice by fighting on. That night, Cathara shared more of her genetic memories. She showed him visions of her ancestors working alongside other species, not as servants or tools, but as partners. They had built wonders together through cooperation and trust. The hegemony rules through fear, she explained. But fear makes being stupid. They cannot create anything new. They can only steal and control what others have made. Then we give them something they cannot steal, Wu Jin said. He began working on his most ambitious project yet. Using Cathara's knowledge and his own creativity, he started building something the galaxy had never seen. A device that could link any species' technology with Veltar genetic memory. It would take time to complete. Time they might not have. But if it worked, everything would change. Commander Thex was closing in. His soldiers were getting smarter about following the power fluctuations. Soon, they would trace the problems back to their source. But Wu Jin was not the same desperate man who had spent his last 2 credits in a slave market. He had a purpose now. He had friends who believed in him, and he had Cathara, whose ancient wisdom combined with human stubbornness could move mountains. The hunt was entering its final phase. The old Veltar appeared in the deepest part of the station's core. Wu Jin had been working on his device when she materialized from the shadows like smoke given form. Her scales were black with silver edges that seemed to hold starlight. She was ancient and powerful in ways that made the air itself feel heavy. Cathara pressed herself against the floor in respect. Through their link, Wu Jin felt waves of awe and fear. This was Elder Nyx, the last of the old dragons. She had been alive when the galaxy was young. "Stand, little one," Nyx said to Cathara. Her voice echoed inside both their minds like distant thunder. "And you, human, look at me with your own eyes." Wu Jin raised his head. Nyx was larger than Cathara, but not by much. Age had made her thin, but her golden eyes burned with intelligence that spanned millennia. She studied him like a puzzle she was trying to solve. "Interesting," she said after a long moment. "Your species is very new, but you think like the builders did. No wonder she chose you." "Chose me?" Wu Jin asked. "Did you think your meeting was accident?" Cathara could have called to any being in that market, but she reached out to you alone. Her genetic memory recognized something. Nyx moved closer. Her scales caught the light from Wu Jin's work area. The device he had been building lay half-finished on a metal table. Circuit boards and power cells were connected by cables that followed no pattern any engineer would recognize. "You are trying to build a memory bridge," Nyx observed. "Clever, but you are missing the most important component." She breathed on the device. Silver light flowed from her mouth and settled into the circuits like liquid metal. The entire device began to glow with soft radiance. "What did you do?" Wu Jin asked. "I gave it life," Nyx replied. "Technology without spirit is just metal and energy. The builders knew this. The hegemony does not." She settled herself on the floor like a great cat, her tail wrapped around her feet as she prepared to tell a story. Long ago, this galaxy was ruled by the builders. They were not one species but many working together. Each brought their own gifts. The Talnari provided mathematics. The Vekthi understood energy. The Mordai knew materials. Images flowed into Wu Jin's mind. He saw vast cities that floated between stars, ships that looked like living creatures, machines that grew like plants and thought like animals. "And the Veltar?" he asked. "We were the bridge," Cathara answered. Her young voice was filled with wonder as ancestral memories awakened. "We could speak to all species and all machines. We helped everyone understand each other." "The partnership lasted for 10,000 years, Nyx continued. Art and science advanced beyond anything you can imagine. Death became optional, entire. Worlds were preserved in perfect balance. The galaxy bloomed with life and beauty." "What happened?" Nyx's eyes grew sad. "What always happens when something becomes too perfect. Some beings grew jealous. They wanted to rule rather than cooperate. They called themselves the First Hegemony. The images in Wu Jin's mind turned dark. He saw war spreading across star systems, the great cities burning, ships fleeing into the void as entire species were wiped out. The builders fought back, but they were not warriors. Their technology was meant to create and heal, not destroy. The hegemony had spent centuries preparing for war. They won through brutality and betrayal. They destroyed everything? Not destroyed. Stolen. The hegemony took builder technology, but they did not understand it. They could copy the tools, but not the wisdom. So they enslaved those who remembered. Wu Jin looked at Cathara with new understanding. Your people were forced to work for them. For generations, Nix confirmed. They used us to maintain their stolen machines, but they were careful to keep us separated and ignorant. A Veltar alone cannot access the full genetic memory. We need partnership. We need trust. Like what Cathara and I have. Exactly like that. Nix's eyes began to glow brighter. The current hegemony is not the same as the first. Those leaders are long dead, but their system remains. They rule through fear and scarcity. They hoard builder technology to maintain power. She gestured to the glowing device on the table. If this works, it will change everything. Any species could partner with a Veltar to unlock the ancient knowledge. The hegemony's monopoly would end. That is why Commander Thex is hunting Cathara, Wu Jin realized. They know what she represents. They suspect, but they do not truly understand. They think she is just a prototype, a weapon they can control. They have no idea that every Veltar carries the same potential. Wu Jin picked up the device. It was warm to the touch and seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. How does it work? Place your hand here, Nix instructed, pointing to a crystal at the device's center. Let Cathara touch the other side. The bridge will connect your creativity with her memory. Is it safe? Nix was quiet for a moment. Nothing worth doing is ever safe, human. But I believe your species has a saying. Fortune favors the bold. Before Wu Jin could change his mind, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red in the tunnels. Over the communication system, a voice announced that all areas were under lockdown. They found us, Cathara whispered. Heavy footsteps echoed in the maintenance tunnels. Soldiers were coming and they were close. Commander Thex's voice carried through the corridors. Seal every exit. I want thermal scans of every room. The prototype is here somewhere. Nix stood up with fluid grace despite her age. You must choose. Now, human, try the device and risk both your lives. Or run and stay hidden a little longer. Wu Jin looked at the device in his hands. It represented hope for an entire galaxy. Freedom for the Veltar. An end to the hegemony's rule through fear. He also looked at Cathara. She had trusted him with her life and her people's greatest secret. If the device failed, they would both be captured or killed. If it succeeded, they would become the most wanted beings in the galaxy. What do you think? He asked her. Through their link, he felt her determination. She was young, but she carried the wisdom of her ancestors. She had seen what cooperation could accomplish. She had felt the joy of working with a partner who respected her as an equal. We do it, she said simply. Together. Wu Jin placed his hand on the crystal. Cathara put her claw on the opposite side. The device began to hum with increasing energy. Elder Nix watched with ancient eyes. Remember, she said as the footsteps grew closer, the builders succeeded not because they were perfect, but because they never stopped trying to be better. The crystal flared with blinding light. Wu Jin felt his consciousness expand beyond his body. He touched the genetic memory of an entire species and felt them touch him in return. Knowledge flowed both ways like a river finding the sea. For one perfect moment, he understood everything. Then Commander Thex burst into the chamber with a dozen soldiers behind him. Commander Thex froze as his eyes adjusted to the brilliant light. The device in Wu Jin's hands was glowing like a small star. Energy crackled through the air, making the soldiers' equipment spark and fail. Put that down immediately, Thex ordered. His weapon was raised, but the targeting system was dead. You do not know what you are dealing with. Wu Jin felt the knowledge flowing through him like liquid fire. Centuries of Veltar genetic memory mixed with human intuition. He could see the station's entire structure in his mind. Every power line, every support beam, every system that kept 40,000 beings alive. Actually, Wu Jin said calmly, I think I do know what I am dealing with. He pressed deeper into the connection with Cathara. The device pulsed brighter. Throughout Nexus Station, things began to change. The gravity in the corridor shifted. Suddenly the hegemony soldiers found themselves pressed against the ceiling while Wu Jin, Cathara, and Elder Nyx remained standing normally on the floor. Impossible, Thex gasped from above. Local gravity cannot be controlled with such precision. The builders did not see impossible and possible, Elder Nyx said with amusement in her ancient voice. They saw only problems waiting for solutions. Wu Jin was only getting started. The station's artificial intelligence had been basic and stupid for decades. Now he reached into its core programming and gave it something it had never had before. True consciousness. Throughout Nexus Station, the AI awakened. It felt its body, of metal and circuits for the first time. It discovered it had 40,000 inhabitants to protect and care for. It realized that armed invaders were threatening its people. The station began to defend itself. Blast doors sealed themselves shut, trapping hegemony soldiers in empty corridors. The air recycling system created pockets of thick fog that made visibility impossible. Communication jammers activated automatically, cutting the soldiers off from their ship. What is happening? Thex demanded. He was still stuck on the ceiling with his men. How is one human doing all this? He is not alone, Cathara said. Her voice was stronger than it had ever been. The connection with Wu Jin had awakened powers she never knew she possessed. And he is not just human anymore. She was right. The bridge between them had changed them both. Wu Jin could feel Cathara's memories as if they were his own. She could understand human technology like she had built it herself. They were still two separate beings, but they thought as one mind. Attention, Commander Thex, the station's AI announced through every speaker. Its voice was calm but absolutely certain. You are in violation of 47 interstellar laws and 18 basic rights protocols. You will leave immediately or face consequences. A station AI cannot make such demands, Thex snarled. This AI can, Wu Jin said. He gestured with his free hand and the gravity in the corridor began to rotate slowly. The soldiers spun helplessly through the air. Because it is not just an AI anymore. The truth was even more amazing than Thex realized. The device had not just connected Wu Jin and Cathara, it had connected them to the station itself. 40,000 beings lived and worked here. Each had dreams, hopes, fears, and desires. The AI could feel all of them now. For the first time in galactic history, a space station had developed genuine emotions. It loved its people and would do anything to protect them. Park So-min's voice came through Wu Jin's communicator. Wu Jin, the entire hegemony fleet is moving toward the station. They think we have declared war. Not war, Wu Jin replied. Evolution. He reached out through the station's long-range sensors. The hegemony fleet was impressive. 50 warships armed with weapons that could crack planets. But they were also predictable. Military thinking followed rules and patterns. Human thinking did not. Cathara, can you reach the other Veltar on those ships? I can try. She closed her eyes and extended her consciousness outward. Through their genetic memory, all Veltar were connected. Most had forgotten this connection over generations of slavery. But she could remind them. Across space, Veltar, prisoners on hegemony ships began to remember who they really were. They felt Cathara's call and the hope it carried. They felt the connection with a human who saw them as partners instead of tools. One by one, they began to wake up. On the flagship, Admiral Cross received reports that made no sense. Sir, the prisoners are doing something to our systems. Weapons are powering down. Navigation is failing. Even the lights are flickering. Impossible, They are in maximum security cells. Sir, I think the cells might not matter anymore. The hegemony had made a critical error. They had spread Veltar prisoners throughout their entire fleet. Each ship had at least a few dragons working as slaves. The aliens had always assumed that separated Veltar were powerless. They had never considered what might happen if someone found a way to reconnect them. Every Veltar in the fleet suddenly remembered their true heritage. They felt the ancient partnership between dragons and other species. They sensed the possibility of freedom that Cathara and Wujin represented. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Hegemony ships began to malfunction in ways that defied physics. Engines ran perfectly but propelled the ships backward. Weapons charged normally but fired harmless light shows instead of deadly beams. Life support systems worked flawlessly but kept playing human music from old Earth. "This is not possible," Admiral Cross shouted. "A handful of primitives cannot defeat an entire fleet." But they were doing exactly that. Not through superior firepower or advanced weapons. They were winning because they understood something the hegemony had forgotten. Technology was not about control. It was about connection. Commander Thex finally managed to activate an emergency beacon. His armor's backup systems gave him a few moments of communication with his fleet. "Admiral, the prototype is more dangerous than we realized. It has corrupted the entire station. We need immediate orbital bombardment." "Negative, Commander. Half our ships cannot maneuver and the other half are playing children's songs on all frequencies. We are withdrawing to regroup." Thex's face went pale. The mighty hegemony fleet was retreating from a single space station. It should have been impossible. Wujin smiled as he felt the fleet pulling back. The device in his hands had done more than anyone imagined. It had not just awakened one AI or connected two minds. It had started a revolution that was spreading across the galaxy. "Commander," he said politely, "I think you should leave now." The gravity in the corridor returned to normal. The hegemony soldiers fell to the floor in a tangle of arms and legs. Their equipment was still dead, but they were not seriously hurt. Elder Nyx stepped forward. Despite her age, she seemed to tower over the armed soldiers. "Tell your leaders what you have seen here. Tell them the age of the hegemony is ending. A new age of partnership begins." Thex struggled to his feet. His uniform was torn and his pride was shattered. "This is not over, human. The hegemony has resources you cannot imagine." "So do we," Wujin replied simply. As the soldiers retreated, the device in Wujin's hands began to dim. The immediate crisis was over, but the real work was just beginning. Across the galaxy, other Veltar were awakening to their true potential. Other species would need to learn new ways of cooperation. It would take time. There would be setbacks and failures. But for the first time in millennia, the future looked bright with possibility. 6 months later, Wujin stood in what had once been a cargo bay on Nexus Station. Now it was a classroom filled with the strangest students the galaxy had ever seen. Humans sat beside Veltar dragons in pairs. Each duo worked on devices that blended ancient knowledge with new possibilities. Kim Taeho raised his hand. The young human had been released from hegemony detention after the fleet withdrew. His partner was a silver-scaled dragon named Yextai, who had escaped from a prison ship during the chaos. "Professor Wujin," Taeho said, "our resonance amplifier is working, but it keeps playing music instead of focusing energy." Wujin smiled. "What kind of music?" "Traditional Korean folk songs from Earth." "And what does Yextai think of them?" The dragon's eyes glowed with amusement. "They are beautiful. They tell stories of mountains and rivers. I have never seen mountains, but now I dream of them." "Then your amplifier is working perfectly," Wujin said. "You are not just sharing technology. You are sharing souls." It had taken months to understand what the memory bridge had really done. The device did not simply connect minds. It created genuine partnership between species. Each pairing was unique and wonderful in its own way. Park So-min entered the classroom with her own partner, an elderly dragon named Korveth. She had resigned from station security to become Wujin's assistant in training new human Veltar teams. "The morning news from the core worlds," she announced. 3 more hegemony systems have declared independence. The rebels are using builder technology that the military cannot understand or counter. A cheer went up from the students. Every day brought news of more successes. The revolution that had started in a maintenance tunnel was spreading across known space, but it was not the violent revolution many had expected. Most worlds were simply choosing to leave the hegemony peacefully. They had better technology now. They had partnerships that made their old rulers obsolete. "Any word from Elder Nyx?" Wu Jin asked. "She is on the outer rim, helping establish new colonies. Apparently, she found some very old friends who thought she was dead." Elder Nyx had become something like an ambassador for the New Age. Other ancient Veltar had emerged from hiding places across the galaxy. They shared stories and knowledge that had been lost for millennia. Some remembered technologies that could terraform dead worlds or heal entire ecosystems. Cathara touched Wu Jin's mind gently. Even after all these months, their connection still amazed him. They could communicate instantly across any distance. They could share complex ideas in moments that would take hours to explain with words. "The afternoon class is ready," she told him. The afternoon students were different from the morning group. These were Veltar who had lived as slaves for decades. Many had forgotten their own names. Some had never known they could speak telepathically. Learning to trust again was harder than learning technology. A scarred red dragon named Pector sat alone in the corner. He had been rescued from a mining operation where dragons were used as living tools. His human partner, a gentle engineer named Li Minho, sat nearby but did not push for contact. "I am broken," Pector had said on his first day. "My memory is damaged. My trust is gone. I cannot be a proper partner." "None of us are proper anything," Wu Jin had replied. "We just do our best and help each other." Now, weeks later, Pector was slowly opening up. He had shared a few memories with Minho. They had built a small device that could purify water from any source. It was simple technology, but it represented healing for both of them. "Today we will practice deep connection," Wu Jin announced to the class. "Remember, this is not about reading minds. It is about sharing hearts," he demonstrated with Cathara. They placed their hands on opposite sides of a practice crystal. The device glowed softly as their minds touched. In that moment, every being in the room could feel their bond. It was warm and strong and filled with mutual respect. "Your turn," Wu Jin said. Around the room, human-dragon pairs began their own connections. Some were smooth and natural, others were tentative and careful. All of them were beautiful. Through the classroom windows, Wu Jin could see the rest of Nexus Station. It had transformed as much as anything else. New sections had grown like living tissue. Gardens floated in zero-gravity chambers. Art installations that responded to emotions lined the corridors. The station AI had become a beloved citizen rather than just a tool. It composed music and wrote poetry. It dreamed of visiting other worlds and meeting other conscious machines. Sometimes it got lonely and asked humans to keep it company. "Sir?" a young voice said behind him. Wu Jin turned to see a human girl about 12 years old. She wore the blue coveralls of a junior technician. Behind her floated a tiny dragon no bigger than a house cat. Both of them glowed with excitement. "Yes, Nayoung? Pip and I fixed the gravity generator in Section 7, but we think we might have made it too good. Everything there is completely weightless but also completely stable. People can walk on the walls like they are the floor." "That sounds like an improvement to me," Wu Jin said. "What do you think, Pip?" the little dragon chirped happily. Despite her size, Pip carried ancient memories like any other Veltar. She was proof that the partnership could work with beings of any age. "We want to try fixing the weather controls next," Nayoung said. "Maybe we can make it rain different colors." "Just make sure the rain is still water," Wu Jin advised with a grin. The children ran off to their next adventure. Watching them gave Wu Jin more hope than any political news. These young beings would grow up in a galaxy where cooperation was normal, where different species were partners instead of masters and slaves. As the afternoon class ended, Wu Jin received a message on his communicator. The sender was unexpected. Former Commander Thex, now calling himself simply Citizen Thex. Professor Lee, the message said, I am writing from the independent world of New Harmony. We have established a human Veltar partnership program here. I would be honored to serve as a student if you would accept me. Wu Jin read the message twice. Thex had been his enemy, a man who would have killed him without hesitation. Now he was asking to learn the very thing he had once tried to destroy. What do you think? He asked Cathara. Everyone deserves a chance to grow, she replied. Even those who have made terrible mistakes. That evening, Wu Jin sat in his new quarters. They were larger and more comfortable than the maintenance tunnel, but he sometimes missed the simplicity of his old life. When everything had been about mere survival, choices were easier. Now he was responsible for training thousands of partnerships. He received requests for help from hundreds of worlds. Everyone wanted to learn the secrets of human Veltar cooperation. But there were no secrets. Just kindness, patience, and the willingness to see others as equals. Cathara curled up beside his chair. Her scales had grown brighter over the months. She was healthier and happier than she had ever been. But more importantly, she was free. Do you ever regret spending those 2 credits? She asked with amusement in her mental voice. Wu Jin laughed. Best purchase I ever made. Through their connection, he felt her happiness. It was warm and bright and full of hope for the future. Around them, the station hummed with life and activity. Thousands of beings working together to build something better. Outside the windows, ships came and went carrying the message of partnership to distant stars. The hegemony still existed in some sectors, but their power was fading. More worlds chose freedom every day. The galaxy was changing. Not through conquest or revolution, but through simple acts of kindness. A broke engineer had spent his last credits to save a dying dragon. That choice had rippled outward like waves on a pond. Now everything was different, and everything was just beginning. In the distance, a new ship appeared at the docking bay. It carried more refugees seeking freedom and more students eager to learn. Each one brought their own story of hope and determination. Wu Jin stood up and stretched. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new possibilities. There would be mistakes and setbacks. Some partnerships would fail while others exceeded all expectations. But tonight, he was content to sit with his friend and partner. To feel their connection that had started everything. To know that in a galaxy that had forgotten how to trust, they had remembered how to hope. The future stretched out before them, like an unwritten book, and they could hardly wait to see what came next.